The sea was only a few hundred yards away. That was all Ava Morgan needed. One last swim, one last chance. The waves crashed against the rocky shoreline as she slipped into the cold Aegean water, clutching nothing except the small waterproof pouch tied beneath her shirt. Behind her, the luxury resort glittered like paradise under the moonlight. To everyone else, the island looked peaceful. To Ava, it had become a prison. She kicked harder, fighting the current while keeping her eyes fixed on the faint silhouette of a fishing boat anchored beyond the reef. If she could reach it, she could disappear before sunrise. Then engines roared across the darkness. Powerful searchlights exploded over the water. Dozens of black speedboats sliced through the waves, surrounding her in seconds. A helicopter appeared overhead, its spotlight locking onto her like a prison floodlight. Ava froze. She had never seen anything move so quickly. One massive superyacht emerged from the darkness, its polished black hull reflecting the moonlight. It drifted silently toward her until it blocked every path to open water. A tall man stepped onto the bow, perfectly tailored black suit. No weapon in his hands, no fear in his eyes. His calm presence somehow felt more dangerous than the armed men surrounding him. "Miss Morgan," he called across the water. His voice was steady, almost gentle. "You've had enough swimming." Ava stared at him, shivering. "Who are you?" The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked toward the island behind her. "It's over," he said quietly. "You can't leave." Anger flashed through Ava despite the freezing water. "You don't own me." "No." His expression never changed. "But I own the island." Silence swallowed the sea. She thought she had misheard him. "What?" "I finalized the purchase 3 hours ago." The words felt impossible. Every dock, every building, every employee, every inch of land. He held her gaze. "And from this moment forward, no one leaves." Ava felt something colder than the seawater settle inside her chest. She had spent the past 4 years working at Elysian Cove, one of the most exclusive resorts in the Mediterranean. Billionaires came and went. Royal families rented entire villas. Celebrities disappeared here whenever the world became too loud. No one simply bought the island overnight, unless they possessed unimaginable power. The realization struck her all at once. "You," her voice barely escaped. "You're Matteo Romano." No denial, no smile, only silence. Everyone in Europe knew the name. Governments pretended he didn't exist. Financial markets feared him. Crime families obeyed him. Stories about Matteo Romano sounded more like myths than reality. People said he never lost control, never raised his voice, never gave second chances. Yet here he stood, personally stopping one frightened woman from swimming away. It made no sense. Ava's fear slowly turned into fury. "You shut down an entire island because of me?" "I shut it down," Matteo replied, "because if you reached that boat," his eyes shifted toward the darkness beyond the reef, "you'd be dead before morning." She laughed bitterly. "That's the same lie every controlling man tells. I'm not trying to control you. No? You surrounded me with gunboats. I surrounded you with protection. I don't need protection. You do." His answer came without hesitation. "So tell your men to move." "I can't." "Why?" "For the same reason you tried to escape tonight." Ava's heartbeat quickened. He somehow knew exactly why she had run. Only 6 hours earlier, she had accidentally entered one of the private conference rooms while searching for a guest. Inside, she had overheard a conversation she was never supposed to hear. A foreign minister, a private military contractor, a man promising that by dawn, one of Europe's most influential political leaders would never be seen alive again. She had backed away before anyone noticed, or so she thought. Since then, strange faces had appeared around the resort. Guests disappeared. Security doubled. Someone searched her apartment. Someone copied her employee files. Someone was hunting her. She looked back toward Matteo. "How do you know?" He didn't answer. Instead, he slowly removed his coat and handed it to one of his bodyguards. Then, without warning, he stepped into the freezing sea. The bodyguards didn't react. Apparently, they had learned, long ago, never to question their boss. Matteo walked through the water until he stood only a few feet away, close enough for Ava to see the exhaustion hidden behind his calm expression, close enough to realize he wasn't looking at her with possession. He was looking at her with fear, real fear. For one brief second, it shattered the image of the untouchable mafia boss, Ava. It was the first time he had spoken her name softly. "If I wanted to imprison you, I wouldn't have come myself." Before she could answer, 3 deafening gunshots echoed across the sea. Bullets struck the water only yards away. Matteo reacted instantly. Without thinking, he grabbed Ava and pulled her beneath the surface, just as another volley ripped through the waves above them. The hunt had already begun. The world became nothing but cold water and muffled explosions. Ava felt Matteo's arm tighten around her as they remained beneath the surface. Above them, bullets ripped across the sea, leaving silver trails through the moonlight. He wasn't shielding himself. He was shielding her. When the gunfire finally paused, Matteo lifted his head just above the waves. 3 speedboats were already changing course toward the attackers. His security team responded with ruthless precision. Short bursts of gunfire echoed through the darkness. Within seconds, 2 hostile boats erupted into flames. The third disappeared into the night. Matteo turned back to Ava. "We're leaving." "I can swim." "I know." Before she could protest, he lifted her effortlessly into a rescue boat waiting beside the yacht. No dramatic gestures, no unnecessary words, only complete control. 20 minutes later, the super yacht cut through the dark Aegean Sea toward the center of the island. Ava sat silently beneath a blanket, watching Matteo stand alone on the upper deck. The wind whipped through his dark hair, yet he never looked back. He hadn't asked if she was hurt. He hadn't apologized. He simply stayed alert, studying the horizon as though expecting another attack. It irritated her. "You still haven't answered my question." Matteo turned slowly. "Which one?" "Why me?" Silence. Then, "Because someone wants you dead." "I already figured that out." "You haven't figured out why." She folded her arms. "Then, tell me." "I can't." "You won't." Both. His honesty somehow frustrated her even more. The island looked completely different by sunrise. Military patrol boats circled the coastline. Private helicopters hovered overhead. Security checkpoints appeared outside every villa. Guests complained. Employees whispered. No one understood why paradise had transformed into a fortress overnight. Only Matteo's inner circle knew the truth. Every route off the island had been compromised. Every harbor watched. Every aircraft tracked. Someone far more dangerous than ordinary assassins was coming. Matteo escorted Ava to the highest villa, overlooking the sea. It was breathtaking. White marble floors, floor-to-ceiling glass walls, infinity pools, spilling into endless blue water, olive trees swaying beneath the Mediterranean sun. It should have felt peaceful. Instead, it felt impossible to escape. "I'm not staying here." "You are." "I'm leaving." "No." Her temper finally exploded. "You keep making decisions for me." "I keep making decisions that keep you alive." "You don't even know me." Matteo looked at her for a long moment. His voice softened. "I know more than you think." Something in his expression unsettled her. Not arrogance, not possession, recognition, as if he had known her long before she knew he existed. That afternoon, Ava searched every hallway she could find. Every exit was guarded. Every dock was closed. Every vehicle required Matteo's authorization. She wasn't a guest. She was trapped. Late that evening, she slipped through a service corridor leading beneath the villa. No guards, no cameras, only dim stone hallways stretching underground. Curiosity overcame caution. She followed the corridor until a heavy steel door stood before her. It wasn't locked. Inside, rows of enormous digital screens illuminated the darkness. Maps, satellite feeds, financial reports, security footage, thousands of photographs. She stepped closer. Her breath caught. Every screen showed. Here, Ava laughing with co-workers. Ava reading on the beach. Ava buying groceries in Athens. Ava celebrating birthdays. Ava arriving at the island 4 years earlier. Even childhood photographs. Some dated nearly 15 years ago. She felt physically sick. "What?" she whispered. "What is this?" "This," Matteo's voice came quietly from behind her, "is why you are still alive." She spun around. "You've been spying on me? I've been protecting you for 15 years? Yes, that's insane. I know. You followed me. I monitored threats. You watched my entire life. I made sure you had one." She stared at him in disbelief. Every instinct told her to run. But another part of her wanted answers. "Tell me the truth." His jaw tightened. For once, no secrets. Matteo walked toward one of the illuminated displays. With a single touch, every photograph disappeared. A family portrait appeared instead. A smiling couple stood beside a little girl no older than 6. The child looked exactly like Ava. She frowned. "I've never seen them before." "You wouldn't have. Who are they?" Matteo looked directly into her eyes. "They're your parents." Her heart stopped. "My father is Richard Morgan." "No, he raised you, but he wasn't your father." The room fell silent. "The man who raised you accepted one impossible mission, to erase your identity." Ava shook her head. "No, he loved you. He protected you, but he was never your blood." Everything she believed about herself began collapsing. My real parents. They were murdered. Why? Because they tried to stop a war. Matteo opened another encrypted file. This time, the screen filled with intelligence reports, photographs of politicians, military leaders, private armies, banking executives. The title across the top read, "The Aegean Circle." What is that? The organization responsible for tonight. And for your parents. Ava slowly stepped backward. "This isn't possible." "It is. You expect me to believe I'm part of some conspiracy. I expect you to survive long enough to learn the rest." Before she could answer, every light inside the command room suddenly turned red. An alarm echoed through the underground complex. One of Matteo's security officers rushed through the doorway. His expression had gone completely pale. "Boss, they've landed." Matteo's eyes darkened. "How many?" "More than we expected. Private helicopters, mercenary boats, multiple teams. They're already inside the eastern perimeter." For the first time since Ava had met him, the calm Mafia Boss looked genuinely worried. He turned toward her. "They found us." Outside, the first explosion shook the entire island. The explosion shook the island hard enough to crack the marble beneath Ava's feet. Dust rained from the ceiling. Emergency lights flashed crimson across the underground command center. Matteo drew his pistol without hesitation. "Stay behind me." For the first time, Ava didn't argue. Outside, chaos consumed the island. Black helicopters hovered above the cliffs. Mercenary boats crashed against the docks. Gunfire echoed through the luxury resort that had once been paradise. Guests had already been evacuated. Now only Matteo's security forces remained. Waiting, fighting, buying time. The underground corridors became a battlefield. Every corner echoed with footsteps. Every shadow hid another enemy. As Matteo led Ava deeper beneath the island, one of his oldest bodyguards suddenly stepped into their path. Marco, a man Matteo had trusted for nearly 15 years. Relief crossed Ava's face, until Marco slowly raised his handgun, not toward the attackers, toward her. "I'm sorry, boss, but they offered more." The shot rang out. Another guard collapsed instantly. Marco seized Ava by the arm before Matteo could react. "Drop the gun." Matteo didn't move. "If you shoot," Marco whispered, "she dies first." Minutes later, Ava found herself inside an abandoned naval bunker beneath the island. Waiting, there was a man dressed in an expensive white suit. Calm, elegant, completely without mercy. Victor Sorin, the last surviving leader of the Aegean Circle. He smiled as Ava entered. "I've spent 23 years looking for you. I don't even know you." "No, but you remember faces remarkably well." Ava Froze, the political assassination she had overheard. Victor had been there. She had unknowingly memorized the face of the man who ordered it. One witness, one mistake, one woman. Every powerful person wanted erased forever. Victor approached slowly. "Your mother made one terrible decision. She believed someone could leave this organization." He reached toward the silver bracelet Ava had worn since childhood. "It isn't jewelry. It's the master key, the final encryption code, protecting every secret account, every blackmail archive, every assassination order, the entire empire." Ava stepped backward. "So that's why everyone wants me." Victor smiled. "No, that's why everyone fears you." A deafening explosion blasted through the bunker entrance. Concrete collapsed. Smoke filled the room. Matteo emerged through the dust, bleeding heavily from his shoulder. His suit was torn. Blood covered one side of his face. Yet his pistol never wavered. "Litergo." Victor laughed. "You've sacrificed an entire island for one woman." Matteo's answer came without hesitation. "I'd sacrifice the world." Gunfire erupted. Marco fired first. Matteo shot him before the second bullet left the chamber. Mercenaries flooded into the bunker from every direction. The underground fortress exploded into violence. Ava crawled behind a concrete pillar as bullets shattered walls around her. Matteo stood between her and every attacker. Again, and again, and again. Every shot he fired created another path toward her. Never away from her. Always toward her. Victor reached the central control console. "If I can't rebuild the circle, no one will." His hand moved toward the encrypted servers. Then Ava understood. The bracelet, it wasn't only a key, it was authorization. She sprinted toward the console before anyone realized what she intended. Matteo shouted her name. Victor lunged after her. Ava pressed the bracelet against the biometric reader. The system awakened instantly. Access granted. Every classified file, every offshore account, every hidden transaction, every murder order, every corrupt official, every member of the Aegean Circle, released worldwide within seconds. Victor stared in horror. "You've destroyed everything." "No," Ava answered quietly. "I ended it." Victor raised his pistol in desperation. The shot echoed through the bunker. Matteo moved before Ava even saw the trigger. He stepped directly into the bullet's path. The impact drove him backward. He collapsed onto the concrete floor. Blood spread beneath him. For one terrifying second, the entire world became silent. Security forces stormed the bunker moments later. Victor was arrested. The remaining mercenaries surrendered. The island was finally secure. But Ava barely noticed. She was already kneeling beside Matteo. "Stay with me." His breathing was shallow. "You were supposed to leave," he whispered weakly. She shook her head through tears. "I was, but not anymore." 3 days later, morning sunlight filled a private hospital overlooking the Aegean Sea. Matteo slowly opened his eyes. The first person he saw was Ava. She hadn't left once. "I should hate you," she admitted softly. "You watched me. You lied to me. You controlled my choices. Matteo closed his eyes. I know. I won't ask you to forgive me. Long silence filled the room. Finally, Ava reached for his hand. You stopped me from swimming away. I thought you stole my freedom. She smiled through tears. You were protecting the only freedom I never knew I had. Months later, the island reopened, not as a fortress, not as mafia territory, but as a peaceful luxury resort once again. Guests returned. Music filled the marina. Children laughed along the beaches. The war had become history. As the first ferry prepared to leave the harbor, Matteo stood quietly on the pier. He held no weapons, gave no orders, blocked no exits. Ava walked toward the boarding gate. She stopped only a few steps away. If I leave, she asked, will you stop me? Matteo smiled faintly. No, I'll make sure you arrive safely. For the first time, he truly meant it. Ava looked toward the endless sea, then back at the man who had once bought an entire island to keep her alive. Slowly, she walked away from the ferry and toward him, taking his hand without a single word. Because love had never been about possession. It had always been about choosing to stay. Together, they watched the sun disappear beneath the Mediterranean horizon, not as prisoner and protector, not as mafia boss and witness, but as two people who had survived a war powerful enough to destroy nations, and discovered that the strongest fortress in the world wasn't an island. It was finding someone worth coming home to. If someone bought an entire island to save your life, would you call it love? Or would you call it imprisonment? Let me know your answer in the comments. And if you enjoy cinematic mafia romance stories filled with obsession, sacrifice, and impossible love, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join Dark Hearts Society for the next unforgettable story.